there was not the safe supply, because I wouldn't be sitting in the front row of Parliament today if it was up to her.
Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everyone. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Fox. Justin Trudeau was in Kelowna, BC today when he was asked to comment on the BC drug disaster and the fact that Meta is still refusing to submit to his tyrannical Bill C-18. It didn't go well.
Let's take a look.
Your government has now approved the recriminalization of public drug use in BC. What are the advantages of arresting public drug users?
A number of years ago, when British Columbia came to us asking for a pilot project to decriminalize certain drugs, to put the emphasis and the onus on a public health response to the toxic drug supply and opioid crisis, we worked with them. And we moved forward on this pilot project, and when they came back recently and said we need to make an adjustment to it, we granted them that adjustment in terms of public spaces. We're going to continue to take an approach grounded in public health, not criminal justice, for people living with addictions. We're going to continue to follow the science. We're going to continue to work around harm reduction and support for people who are struggling with addictions. We're looking at investing in more community supports and more wraparound services. Every step of the way, we will be guided by thoughtful, compassionate public health principles rather than ideology or criminalization of people who need support, need help, don't need jail sentences.
You know what drives me nuts about this? They keep saying toxic drug supply. Buddy, these drugs are bad for you, whether they're bought off the street or whether it's a medical professional giving you a prescription for it. It doesn't matter. The reason that drugs like morphine, fentanyl, other opioids, amphetamines, all these classes of drugs, the reason that they're controlled substances is because they have the potential for abuse. It doesn't matter where they come from.
Well, the thing that gets me is she asked him, so what are the benefits of criminalizing it again? And then all he goes on to say is essentially, well, we're not happy that they're recriminalizing the use of drugs in these places out in BC. We're going to follow the science and we're going to follow the fact. Okay, so, well, here's the thing. Who's closer to this pilot than the NDP government? And they're seeing a disaster to the point where the Conservative Party, the Conservative Provincial Party, has increased massive support. Like, massive support. They were the number 3 party not too long ago in that province. Now the Conservatives are in the lead because of this. So, you know, they had to reverse course on this because it was becoming such a problem.
And follow the science? What science, quote unquote science, is Trudeau trying to follow? Because the science I was taught in school was that all these drugs have addictive qualities, and not even necessarily like psychologically addictive. They are physically addictive as well. You know, we were taught to give these drugs to animals who are coming out of surgery to help them with their pain. And we were told, do not overprescribe these types of medications because they can become physically dependent on them. The same thing happens in humans.
Let's talk about one quick, equation of science here. So, person who's on drugs plus more drugs equals not addicted person to drugs, or person who's on drugs minus drugs equals person not addicted to drugs. Which equation makes more sense from just a scientific perspective, everybody?
Well, just look at what Melissa Lantsman had to say about it in the House on Thursday.
Madam Speaker, this is exactly what I'm talking about. The extremist view that treatment is somehow war. I want to tell you something. Thank God my parents, the circle around me, those who I worked with, my friends, had faith in my own recovery. Thank God I had treatment. Thank God that I didn't have the supply, the safe supply The minister's walking out and she's yelling because she knows she's wrong and she's an extremist. But thank God there was not the safe supply, because I wouldn't be sitting in the front row of Parliament today if it was up to her.
It's a very powerful statement from Melissa Lantsman.
Yeah, and I was actually taken aback because I did not know that she had a substance abuse problem earlier in her life.
And I think it takes a very strong person to, number one, get over it, but number two, admit it, and I suppose number three, be able to help people because of it.
Well, and put herself out there, right? Because, you know, usually these things are things that politicians don't want people to know about. But, you know, kudos to her for bringing her life experience in on this. And again, it goes back to the equation. You don't help somebody get off drugs by giving them more drugs. It's the stupidest thing that I've ever heard of. And the fact that they're calling this insanity is completely accurate.
Wildfire season has already begun in BC, but news is still banned on Facebook and Instagram. You said yourself this is likely going to be a bad season. Last week, our outlet, we interviewed a law professor, and he said, in his opinion, it would be likely Meta would work with Canada. We interviewed law professor Michael Geist last week, and he told us that, in his view, Meta would unblock news in Canada if the Online News Act were changed. Would your government compromise with Meta so that Canadians could once again post news on Facebook?
Meta, Facebook, has made the decision that they shouldn't have to compensate hardworking journalists telling local news stories. It is a decision by Meta that makes billions of dollars of profit all around the world, that they have no accountability to journalists that actually tell local stories, work hard to actually make sure people are properly informed, and instead make money off of sharing of information without recognizing the role they must play in a strong, independent media that is enhancing our democracies. This is a test moment where countries are going to have to realize that either we stand up for journalism and the profession, faced with internet giants that refuse to actually participate in it, or we bow down to them and allow them to make billions more dollars while degrading the safety, well-being, and communities that thrive in our democracy. I know there are a lot of people trying to figure out ways to keep everyone informed, particularly around emergency situations. We had this disagreement with Google, and Google stepped up with $100 million to make sure that local journalism was thriving. This is on Meta. This is Facebook deciding that they don't want to support the work of maintaining democracies. And either Canada stands strong to protect information and independent journalism, or else we see our democracies further diminished and further vulnerable to irresponsible web giants that are making billions off of people but taking no responsibility for the communities and the well-being of those communities that they exist and profit from everywhere around the world. We will continue to stand strong against the damaging impact of Meta, of Facebook, of Instagram, of all of them, until they step up and recognize that funding quality journalism in communities large and small, right across the country and around the world, is their responsibility, as it is all of ours.
So why exactly is Meta responsible for funding journalism around the world?
Yeah, they're not. They're a business, guy.
They're a social media business. They have nothing to do with journalism.
Well, and here's the thing. You had all these journalists and all these news organizations. They were using Google for free. They were using Facebook for free. You don't think there's a fee for service there? And here's the thing. So Google gave the news organizations $100 million. I guarantee you what Google also did Because they actually, in their initial case back to the government, they said, we actually provide over $200 million worth of net value to these organizations every year for free. So, guaranteed. They took a look at that and said, all right, well, I guess we're just not going to do that anymore because you're asking us to pay $100 million. Fine. Then we will be in a net $100 million position. Thank you very much, Government of Canada. And I guarantee you, part of the pieces that Google has withdrawn is funding for local journalists and helping to kickstart independent media and that sort of thing. And then Trudeau has the gall to come and say, oh, well, an independent media is really... Really? You're funding all of them. We're independent.
That's right.
So, we're not getting any money from you, and we don't want any money from you.
No. You cannot buy our silence.
So, this is the thing. You have all of these other businesses that don't get any money from the government, but you have the big media giants that do. It's absolutely ridiculous. They don't deserve money if they can't manage their business properly. If they lose money because no one is actually using their business, well, then they suck at their business, don't they? And they deserve to fail. And you say, well, what would happen? What would happen? Somebody would take their place. That's what would happen.
You know what you can share on Facebook, though? Northern Perspective
videos. Absolutely. And the other thing is that Trudeau is trying to say, this is on Meta. You can't share news about wildfires because of Meta. No. You have prioritized the fact that you want all of these greedy news organizations to get paid hundreds of millions of dollars for literally doing nothing over the safety of these people.
That's it. They are in a game of chicken, and Trudeau and the Liberal government have valued... I don't even know what they've valued more than the safety of Canadians. They're just being stubborn at this point.
Right, because the problem is these news organizations are actually losing more.
Yeah, so the news organizations are losing out because they're not getting those clicks from Facebook and Instagram. And instead of getting money from the ad revenue on their own website that they would have gotten as a result of people coming from Facebook or Instagram to their website, they're getting nothing.
Because they are looking at Facebook completely incorrectly. Facebook, just like Google, is a distribution source. That's all it is. So when you post a news link on Facebook and then someone shares that and somebody shares that and somebody shares that, they're trying to say, oh, well, Facebook's making money off of that. Sure, they're making money off that. You know who also makes money off of that? The news organizations. When you click on that link and go to their website, and they see all these advertisements, then they make money. So you're actually taking money out of the pocket of these news organizations. They're not losing money that Facebook was already paying them. That's not how this worked. They were getting paid no money from Facebook.
And now they're getting no money from their own ad revenue on their own websites because they're not being redirected from Facebook.
Right. So, Trudeau, this is a game of chicken, as Fox said, and you're going to lose. You do not play a game of chicken with an opponent that is in a much stronger position than you are. You're going to lose.
You'd lose, and you'd lose big.
If Trudeau cared about all these Canadians who may be affected by the wildfires, all he had to do was reverse Bill C-18. That would eliminate the Facebook news blocks. But again, he doesn't want to do it. Why? Nobody knows. I suspect it's the media lobby.
But, it's going to be another summer, and I'm sure we'll get through it. And I'm sure at the end, it's all going to be blamed on Meta, not Trudeau's ego. So have fun with that, Trudeau, and let's see how you make out, because I don't think you're going to last the summer.